The world is buzzing with AI tools, but instead of making things easier, they've made things overwhelming. There's a better way. Meet Superhuman, the AI productivity suite that gives you superpowers so you can outsmart the work chaos. With Grammarly, Mail, and Coda working together, you get proactive help across your workflow, no matter how you work. Experience AI that meets you right where you are. Unleash your superhuman potential today. Learn more at superhuman.com/podcast. That's superhuman.com/podcast.
For men who refuse to stay complacent. Welcome to the Upgraded Man podcast with your host, Chris Anderson.
Who errs? Who comes short again and again? Because there is no effort without error and shortcomings. If you're sitting there right now feeling like you've been losing more than you've been winning, like you keep showing up and you keep falling short over and over again, I want you to stay with me for the next 30 or so minutes because this episode's for you. I'm Chris Anderson, and welcome to The Upgraded Man. So you probably have heard of the man in the arena quote. It's on coffee mugs, locker rooms. It's a thing somebody texts when you're going through it, right? But I'd bet most of you have never heard the whole thing, and almost nobody has heard the story of who wrote it and where he was in his life when he did. So let me set the scene. It's 1910 in Paris, a room full of intellectuals, professors, and statesmen. Theodore Roosevelt walks up and gives a speech. And here's the part most people miss. He's the former president. He's out of office. He's just watching from the sidelines while other men run the country he used to run. And here's the part that gets me. Years before this speech, Roosevelt lost his wife and his mother on the same day in the same house, just hours apart. And that night he wrote this line in his journal. He said, "The light has gone out of my life." And then he packed up, he disappeared. He went to the Badlands of North Dakota for 2 years. He worked cattle, slept on the ground, trying to find a reason to keep going. How many of you have been in positions like this or felt like this sometimes? And while he was out there in North Dakota, he finally figured it out, and he didn't come back the same man as he left. So when he stands up at this podium in Paris, this isn't some politician dropping a line for applause. This is a man who has bled, who has been through some battles, who has fought some things and been through some things, just like you probably have. It's a man who's been on top of the world, and he's got knocked off. Buried people he's loved, rebuilt himself from nothing, and is now standing in front of a room full of critics asking himself the same question a lot of you are asking right now. What kind of man am I going to be with the time I've got? And we don't know how much time that is. That's the man who wrote these words. Not a motivational speaker, not a coach, not somebody trying to sell you something. He was a man in transition who knew that dust and sweat and blood, well, he knew what it actually felt like. And that's why it hits different when you really sit with this speech I'm going to read through in a moment. But here's what I want you to do. I'm going to read the whole passage. Then I'm going to walk through 6 different areas of the speech that I think a lot of us miss or would miss if we read it. And if any one of these, if you let them sink in, if you take them in, could change how this week and all the weeks going forward look like and end for you. So here we go. Buckle in. We're going to read this full passage, not super long. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. All right, let's actually break this down now. So the first one, it is not the critic who counts. Every man listening to this right now, who listened to that speech, has a critic. You have one. I have one. You have one. We all have one. Maybe it's your boss. Maybe it's your father-in-law. Maybe it's the guy you went to high school with who's been quietly rooting against you on Facebook behind that keyboard for a long time. But here's also what I've learned. And I think it's actually what Roosevelt is trying to get at with his speech, with that quote, is not the critic who counts. The loudest critic in your life isn't out there. That critic is between your ears. You know, that critic, it sounds like your parent when you brought home that Dear F on your report card. It sounds like the coach who said you wouldn't be good enough to play. It could be or sound like your ex. It could also sound like the version of you from 5 years ago that you're still trying to outrun. And that voice, the one inside your own head, that has more power to keep you out of the arena than any hater on the internet can. That's the first arena. The first arena we have to step into is one inside our own head. I had to battle that arena hard. End of high school into college, and some of you might have heard this story before, but you know that critic, that battle, that arena I was in was winning. It was beating me down. It was keeping me down to the point of where I was just going to throw in the towel and be done. You're not good enough. You're not worth being here. You're a waste of oxygen. That critic was brutal. And I started to believe him. But thankfully, and for me, and you, if you've listened to me at all, know faith is a part of my journey, a big part. And, you know, I wasn't alone in the arena. And you don't have to be alone in the arena either. You know, I leaned into God, and he stepped in. And he protected me, and he lifted me up, and he showed me my worth. And he showed me that I meant so much to him, and there's a reason I was here, even though I might not know it. And so I changed my whole mindset, and I started fighting back against that critic. And did it go away? Not completely. Still have to battle some of those critics in your mind, right? But it gets a little bit easier once you understand your worth. And you know, I truly believe that comes from God, and it was for me. And so that was something, you know, for me, battling in that arena was hard and a really big changing moment in my life. And so before we go any farther into the next one, I want you to ask yourself who that voice in your head, that critic, sounds like, or who it is for you. Because you can't fight it if you don't know who it is or what it is. So you got to name it so you can start battling in that arena. The second part that I want to hit on is the quote from the speech: "The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena." So something that took me a long time to admit about myself that I want to say here is, you know, for a long time I wanted the credit without the arena. I wanted to have a business that was running and doing well, and you know, I wanted to be that leader and motivate others to do it, but I hadn't done it. I hadn't been through the arena. I saw what it could be, and I saw how great it would be to be able to have that and be able to do that and make a difference, but I wasn't there yet. I wanted that credit without the battle, going through the battle. And a lot of us, we want to be respected as husbands, but we don't want to do the actual work in marriage. We don't want to have the hard conversations, the apologies that aren't 50-50, the showing up when we don't feel like it. We want to be a great dad, and we want our kids to think we are a great dad, but we don't want to put our phone down in the evenings when we're tired to focus on them and spend time with them. We want to be known as the leader at work, but we don't want that exposure that comes with actually leading something. We want the title without the bruises. And Roosevelt is sitting there in 1910 saying, you don't get to have one without the other. The credit you want is because of the bruises. That's the whole point of that sentence. So let me ask you this again while you're listening. What arena have you been avoiding for months? Maybe years. And you won't step into that arena because the cost of stepping into that arena seems too high. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It popped in your head right when I asked. Sit with that for a second, and then we'll jump into the next one. So the third piece of the speech, the quote, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. The arena leaves marks. If you've been in one, if you've been through some life battles, you've got them. And you know what I'm talking about. But here's the thing. Most of us have been trained so well to just hide them. You don't want to talk to your buddies about the truth. Money's tight, relationships aren't good, business isn't where you want it to be. You don't tell anyone you feel like a terrible dad. You don't admit out loud that you haven't really prayed or read your Bible in over a year. You don't tell anyone if you think the business you started isn't worth it anymore. You just keep posting all the good stuff, hoping nobody asks the real questions. And listen, I get it. Been there, done that. We've all done it. We're all guilty of it. There's a reason we do this, right, as men. Because nobody really taught us another way. But here's what I believe. The polished man is a suspicious one. The one who seems like he's got everything together. Everything's perfect. There are no ups and downs. Just everything's golden. If a guy's face doesn't have any dust, sweat, blood on it, I don't know. It doesn't seem like he's going through the battles. Maybe it's too good to be true. What arena has he actually been in? And that's not to say he's not. We just are so used to hiding everything instead of being real with one another. Man, I've been through a lot of arenas in all of the areas, all right? All of them. And so we got to be a little bit more real. And, as the ones, doing the work, you can see it, right? You know when someone's going through some stuff or when they're trying. Doesn't mean we have to be negative. Doesn't mean we have to be woe is me all the time. But it's okay to be open about it. The marks aren't something to hide. The marks are the proof. And then he says, who errs, who comes short again and again. So I want to talk to you right now. If you're someone who's keeping track, who's keeping a running tally, the one who can list off in your head right now every place that you have fallen short. It's like instant. You can pull it up. I failed here. I did this wrong. I could have done this better. As a husband, a father, a son, in your faith, with your temper, at work, your discipline, your fitness, in business, all the promises you made yourself that you break the next day. The man who has started to wonder, quietly of course, because he's not going to talk about it, when nobody sees, Maybe he's just not built for this. So I want you to hear me on this right here. That list that you've been keeping, that you keep going back to, the one full of every place you've come up short or feel like you're lacking in, Roosevelt isn't reading that list the same way you're reading it. You're reading it as a list of failures, a list of your shortcomings. Roosevelt is reading that list that you created as proof that you've been in the arena. There is no effort without error and shortcomings. So, I mean, there's no success, there's no growth, there's no benefit, there's no getting better without messing up and without falling short. So that list is not negative. That's the thing, right? The man with the cleanest record, who hasn't failed at anything, who hasn't had the pain of falling short, well, he's really risked the least. For me, one arena that I feel like I fall short in every day almost is spending time with my kids, right? I just feel like I could do better, spend more time, be more focused on them. Because, there's business, there's relationships. I coach soccer, trying to take care of my fitness, try to take care of the house, the animals. And they almost get kind of the leftover, which is terrible. And I want to do better each day, and I try to do better each day. And I think that's the point, obviously, of this show, this episode, this speech. But that's a reoccurring thing that I look at as a failure instead of seeing it as I'm trying each day to get better and I fall short. If that makes sense. I hope that tracks with you. But that's something that, I repeatedly am trying to improve on, that I just feel like I don't. So I hope that if you needed someone to tell you that falling short isn't a disqualification, let me be that guy. Okay, because I fall short all the time. That was just one of many. Okay, spending time with my kids. So it's not disqualifying you. It's a receipt that you're actually trying. All right, so don't stop. Keep going. The fifth part I wanted to hit on from that speech goes, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause. So when was the last time you were excited about your own life? Straight up, like, when's the last time you're like, oh yeah, this life is great. I'm so freaking pumped. When was that? I'm not talking about entertained. I'm not talking about distracted from your life. Not numbed out or focused on your phone after the kids go to bed. I mean, truly fired up about something you were doing in life, something you were building, something you were striving towards, a goal. Because Roosevelt isn't describing a man who's just enduring. He's describing a man who's pouring himself out for something he believes matters. So what's that for you? I want to give you this reframe on that too. This one changed how I think about being tired, right? So we all kind of get tired. We all feel sluggish. We all feel worn down sometimes. There's a difference between being exhausted and spent. Let me say it again. There's a difference between being exhausted and spent. Exhausted is what happens when you're grinding on something that you don't really believe in or truly want to do. It's just exhausting. It's draining. It's ugh. Spent is what happens when you've poured yourself out for something worthy, something that you believe in, something that's bigger than you, that's something that gets you fired up. They can feel the same in your body, but they're not the same. And the cure for exhaustion is not more rest. It's actually just shifting to taking action towards something that actually gets you fired up, something that's worthy in your mind and in your heart. So if you're tired right now, like really tired, I want you to ask yourself which one you really are. Are you exhausted or are you spent? Are you spending yourself on the right thing? Or are you just running on a treadmill that's pointed to nothing? Because those two things require completely different fixes. The next part of the speech, his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. That line should make us pause. I'm going to read it again. His place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Notice what Roosevelt is not doing. He's not comparing the man in the arena to the man who lost. He's not saying, well, at least you tried even though you got beat. No, he's comparing the man in the arena to the man who never got in it. The guy on the sidelines, the keyboard warrior, the one critiquing everybody who is trying. And Roosevelt's verdict on that guy is brutal, right? What he calls them cold and timid souls. I love that. That guy doesn't even know who he is because he's never even tested himself in the arena. So I want you to hear me say this. The opposite of being in the arena isn't failure. The opposite of being in the arena is complacency. Staying the same, being neutral. It's a life so guarded, so safe, so risk-free that you never lose. But you also never know what you're actually made of. So if you're listening right now and you can't remember the last time you risked something that actually mattered, I don't want you to feel guilty, but I hope it wakes you up. Because it's not really peace you're living in, it's complacency. And if you're not growing, you're really dying. And Roosevelt would rather you fail in the arena than win on the sidelines, because the one in the arena at least knows who he is. He knows what he's fighting for. He knows the purpose that he's going towards. Let me talk to you for a second. Wherever you're listening to this, in the truck on the way to your job, in the gym between sets, on a walk because you need to get out of the house, I want you to think about the arena you've been circling, the one you've been avoiding. You know what it is. You've been thinking about it this whole episode. Maybe it's a conversation with your wife that you've been putting off for many, many months because you don't know how it's going to land. Maybe it's a conversation with your son, your daughter, where you actually have to apologize for something first, like spending more time on your phone than with them. Maybe it's a decision at work that you've been putting off because, the safe move is also the easier one. Maybe it's a prayer you've been avoiding because you don't really want to have the answer. Maybe it's a health thing, or a friendship you love get cold, or a business move, even a confession. Whatever it is, Roosevelt isn't asking you to win. He's not asking you to have it all figured out. He's not asking you to be sure. He's asking you to step in. The dust, the sweat, the blood, that's the proof that you're upgrading. The shortcomings are part of the price. The critics are going to be loud no matter what you choose, step in or not. So you might as well do the thing you'd actually respect yourself for trying. And the arena can be lonely. I know. Fight anyways. 3 things before I let you go. 1, before this episode ends, I want you to name the arena you've been avoiding. Out loud, whether you're in the truck, in your head, doesn't matter. Just name it, because you can't step into something you can't name. Then I want you to text it to a buddy of yours who's going to hold you to it. Not your wife, not your therapist, a brother. Somebody who will check in with you in 2 weeks and actually make sure you did the thing. And then this week, do one thing that risks failure. Not a metaphor or anything specific, but you already know what it is. That conversation, that fitness workout, whatever that is. And then come back to this episode in 30 days, and I want to see if the answer to that question has changed, if you're in a different arena. But I'll leave you with the part of Roosevelt's line that most men skip right over. But first, make sure you're following the show. We can't do this without you. So share it, help someone else who needs to hear this, who's fighting battles or not fighting battles. Let's help everyone upgrade together. But the line that most men skip right over: if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly. That's it for me. Get in the arena. Keep fighting. We'll talk to you again soon.
The world is buzzing with AI tools, but instead of making things easier, they've made your workflow overwhelming. You're stuck copying, pasting, context switching, and juggling too many apps. There's now a better way that outsmarts the work chaos. Meet Superhuman, the AI productivity suite that gives you superpowers everywhere you work. With Grammarly, Mail, and Coda working together, you get proactive help across your workflow, from writing to preparing for meetings, presentations, and so much more. Think of Superhuman as your AI dream team, proactively helping you go from to-do to done faster. Superhuman knows what you might need and offers suggestions whether you're drafting emails, creating documents, or more. It guides you in the moment so you sound like your best self and stay focused on what matters. There are even specialized agents designed to collaborate seamlessly and amplify your impact. Unleash your superhuman potential today. Learn more at superhuman.com/podcast. That's superhuman.com/podcast.